What's going on, guys? In this video I'm going to give you a quick tour of my raised outdoor quail hutch, how I went about building it, and some things that I would have done differently if I were to do it again. The hutch is about 18 foot long with a 3 foot wide depth, which allows for plenty of space for multiple breeding sets of Coturnix quail and still be able to reach anywhere in the interior to clean, conduct maintenance, and care for the quail. I used 1/2 inch hardware cloth to line the framework of the doors, floor, and underneath the roof to ensure the hutch is as predator resistant as it could be. The entire floor is on a slight angle, so any eggs laid will make their way down to the front where I can easily collect them. I also installed a foam strip along the egg collection system to protect the eggs as they roll down. Since we're in the fall season, I don't really have that many eggs to show for because their production has stopped until the springtime unless I introduce the artificial light. The gravity-fed watering system I put together using a 5-gallon bucket, a ball check valve, and 1/2 inch PVC held up by an industrial wall mount on a 4x4 post, which also supports the motion detection light and solar panel that gives charge to the interior light that I have the option to set on a timer. For just a few dollars, I purchased a durable serving tray platter that I'm using as the quail's dust bath to hold the sand, and I placed it right on the frame against the windowsill so it's not putting weight on the wire floor, but also advantageous for me as it's easy to refill and gives the quail an opportunity to sunbathe a few hours a day from this area. Some things that I would have done differently if I were to start this project over again or build another one: I would support the hutch with 4x4 post legs in lieu of the 2x4s for additional support and longevity. I used the 2x4s because I already had them on hand, and waiting for another lumber order from the sawmill for the 4x4s in the busy season would have delayed this project by weeks, but looking back on it, I should have been patient. But the hutch is still structurally sound enough to last me some years ahead and can always be modified at some point. Another approach I would have taken differently with this build is the flooring. Now, because I mainly keep jumbo Coturnix quail in the setup and they are a bit heavier type of quail, I added the plastic 1/2 inch cloth netting over the top of the 1/2 inch hardware cloth that I have lined underneath it for additional support and as a predator deterrent. The plastic cloth on top prevents the quail from getting foot injuries, which is common even when the hardware cloth is laid perfectly flat. Getting small cuts on their feet can evolve into bumblefoot, even with a well-maintained enclosure. If you're housing a lot of quail at once, there is always waste matter throughout the hutch. The problem lies in how I laid out and applied the flooring. I did my best to align the holes with both material to allow passage for waste, but the plastic cloth is a bit thicker and the material allows the waste to bind to it versus just using the hardware cloth alone, especially with the amount of feces being produced because of the abundance of quail housed. So I have to be more frequent in maintaining the flooring, but I've never had a quail with bumblefoot or cuts and injuries because they're always walking on a softer material. I would either house less breeding sets than I did prior to reduce maintenance and the amount of waste, or remove the plastic cloth and just put standard Coturnix quail in there and my jumbos in the aviary where they'll be able to walk on natural substrate, which will be a lot easier on their feet. One last thing I plan on modifying is their feeding system. Now, because I house quail in a natural aviary prior to this build, the quail would always pick up their food waste that was spilled on the ground, and because this hutch is raised, they don't have that option, and feed spills to the bottom of the floor onto the ground where chipmunks and other local wildlife would eat the pile of feed accumulating underneath the hutch. When maintenance time comes around, the spilled feed ends up getting raked and thrown into the compost pile, which adds up in cost and feed loss over time. Now, quail are messy eaters to begin with, so you'll always lose at least probably around 10% of feed at all times, but the goal is to, of course, keep that percentage as low as possible. So I plan on adding 90-degree PVC elbows to the end of their feeding ports to prevent them from drawing crumble out of the feeder altogether, which might not eliminate 100% of waste, but it should do a better job at keeping the feed in the containers. So if you guys have any tips or tricks for me regarding this overall setup and suggestions for me to consider in the future, please comment down below, and I'd love to hear your ideas and experiences with raising Coturnix quail. So that's all for now, and as always, if you guys have any questions, drop them down below, and thank you very much for watching.